Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today, we have Mary Kay Wolf joining us. Mary Kay is the executive director of the Great Rivers United Way here in Western Wisconsin. So we're going to focus on the wonderful work of GRUW. Should I call it GRUW or?
As long as you explain that that's Great Rivers United
Way. It's the Great Rivers United Way and United Ways around the world, because this show is being broadcast around the world. Welcome to the show, Mary Kay.
Thanks for having me, Andy.
In the spirit of full disclosure, I was, what were Linda and I, campaign co-chairs?
You were campaign co-chairs, that's right. And this year is interesting because we're relying on previous campaign chairs to help celebrate our 75th anniversary.
Well, this is our way of celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Great Rivers United Way. So Nick should cue the applause track right now.
We appreciate you.
Mary Kay, before we get started, I ask all my guests this question. Give us the 2 or 3 minute version of your story.
My story. Gosh, I grew up in La Crosse. I went to Central High School. I did all the things you did. And then we moved away, and I was in the for-profit world. I was doing recreation and having fun out there. And then we moved back about 23 years ago to La Crosse. Then I had the opportunity to work in an advertising agency. And through the course of that, I thought, I just don't want to make money for somebody anymore. I want to help people. I want to make a difference. And so I was older then, and going back to school was kind of like maybe not possible with 3 small children. So I decided to go ahead and do what I could with the experience that I had in marketing, and went to Family and Children's Center as a marketing, moved into their development, was there 3 years. Took over the YWCA as director there for 5 years. And then I've been at Great Rivers United Way for 11 years. So that is the 2 or 3 minute story of my career.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more you want.
Well, we'll get into the personal maybe as we go along. I'm curious, recreation, what was that?
So UWL, I went to UWL for a year, and they have a recreation administration major minor. I took the minor because I was then going to teach physical education. I went to a practicum in high school to high school students to learn more about it, and they absolutely hated physical education, and I loved it. I was an athlete, and so I'm like, how can you hate this? And decided right there I don't want to teach, because I'm not sure that I could have spent all of my career trying to convince high school girls that they love physical education when they probably don't.
Right.
So I decided to go to University of Stevens Point, where I graduated in a non-teaching physical education career, which in those days was wellness. So.
Excellent. Yeah, I made a similar career choice. I knew I wanted to be a teacher, but I was like, I am not going to teach high school kids. So if you're a high school teacher, thank you.
Bless you.
Thank you so much for your contributions to the community and the world. You are doing great work.
Absolutely.
So if you had to pick an event that just was an accelerant for your career, a major pivot point that you just took off afterwards, what would that be?
I do think it was the aha moment that I don't really want to line the pockets of companies and make people money. I'd rather give their money away.
Yeah.
So I really did have that epiphany of I actually want to make a difference in someone's life. I don't want to just be turning money and it just didn't feel right anymore.
Yeah.
Interestingly, when I was a senior in high school, I wanted to be a social worker. And I was talked out of it.
Really?
Yeah, but all the adults in my life, it just is no pay, no appreciation, large case. I mean, really, they took it upon themselves to make sure I knew that that wasn't the career to go for. And I think I've been regretting it ever since. So when I had this epiphany of helping someone else, it kind of came full circle.
Yeah. So again, if you're out there feeling like social work is what you're all about, don't listen to those voices. And I've been that voice before, counseling people about careers and what careers make more money than others. And it's not always about money.
It's not. Follow your gut.
We're doing a fist bump live over.
There we go.
You can see the fist bump on YouTube, but we'll explain it to you if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. So thank you so much for that, Mary Kay. Let's talk about Great Rivers United Way. What's the 3-minute elevator pitch for the United Way generally and Great Rivers United Way specifically? And just imagine that you're talking to somebody that has no idea.
So a lot of people know United Way. It's a brand that is recognizable across the world. It's an international organization. When we talk here locally, it's important for everybody to know that we are local. We are our own 501c3 organization. I'm going way off of elevator speech here.
Oh, that's
but
fine.
It's important for people to know that, because we make our own decisions on how we support this community and what we do here. And I will say, sure, we do pay dues to United Way worldwide, but that's to use the brand. That's the same nonprofit model that most national nonprofits have. If you're using a national brand, you're paying to do that. The level of what you pay or dues or whatever is different, but we're no different than any other.
And they provide you some tools and
not good basic practices. What's the best practice? Networking, so we can learn what others are doing and what might work here.
Right.
So
So
we get something for it.
So you're not reinventing the wheel.
No.
Yeah.
So I guess the best elevator speech for Great Rivers United Way today is Great Rivers United Way focuses on improving the well-being of our communities. We have we're doing some major announcements later this month about the direction that United Way is going and how we're going to be doing it. So that elevator speech really now is we focus on the well-being of our communities. And the way we do that is different. We can fund different programs that put the mental well-being lens on what they do. We can partner with other organizations that focus on mental well-being, and we're going to do all of that. And we're going to announce that at the end of the month.
That's awesome. So if you had to, again, you have that person sitting in front of you that just doesn't know, if you had to pick the thing that's the most impactful, the one thing that just, and I know you have a distributed organization, there's a lot going on, a number of pillars, but what's that one thing?
I think Great Rivers United Way is a different type of community organization. And giving to United Way means that you're reaching more people. You're reaching more organizations, more programming. If you or anyone is aligned with a nonprofit organization in the community and you give to them, I would say keep doing that. I would never ask you to do anything different.
Right.
But Great Rivers United Way is an and in that case, right? We're not an or. You know that organization, you want to support them, you know what they do. But there is nothing that one organization can move the needle on all by themselves.
Yeah.
It takes a community effort, everybody sometimes rowing in the same direction. And I think that's what Great Rivers United Way brings to the table is we're helping people row in the same direction to make the same kind of needle movement. But you might not know about some of the programs that we know about.
Right.
And so in order to support the community effort, a gift to Great Rivers United Way gets those funds to nonprofits that might be smaller, but are making the same good impact, serving different kids maybe, or different adults, but that's okay too. Yeah. Because if the need is big, we need programming to meet all the folks that need it.
Yeah, so I'm a finance guy, and I like talking about financial literacy. And so there's the concept of diversification of one's portfolio. So I like that you brought up, and that one thing really being that United Way can help with your philanthropic diversification strategy, and a dollar to United Way will impact some programs that maybe you didn't think of by yourself, because you can't know everything.
Do the legwork that we can.
But Mary Kay Wolf can.
Yeah, we know what's out there.
Yeah.
My staff is amazing, and they're involved in a lot of different things. So if you're ever in a position where, oh gosh, I think I could do more, but I don't have the time to do all the research and figure it all out.
Yeah,
that's where we come in.
And a shout out to Terry Booth. She really runs the organization.
Oh,
she's the one that
absolutely.
She's the one that really knows all the things that are going on.
She is the glue.
She is the glue. So we've been through some extraordinary change over the last 5 years. Families, businesses, institutions. We've had pandemic. We've had all sorts of things going on. What's the most important change that you've seen that's impacting the community, and how is Great Rivers United Way responding to that change?
Well, I think one of the biggest changes is people understanding and realizing that mental health is a huge factor, and often an underlying factor for just about everything else. And so we've, again, making that change to kind of pivot and try to focus a little deeper on one area to help those needles move. Your question was, what has changed the most? I think mental health is one of them. The other one, I think, is that people live so much closer to the edge financially now than they have in the past. This is, the savings account is secondary. The medical bill that comes in that you weren't expecting isn't going to get paid. I think there is this really close to the edge place that more and more people are getting to, and they are one car payment away from not making ends meet, or one huge medical crisis that suddenly they can't make the rent. So I think that is where a lot of people live right now, and that's kind of scary.
Yeah. Well, getting back to the mental health aspect of society today, I'm a firm believer that the mental health challenges were there in the past. We just didn't have a name for it, and we didn't shine any kind of light on it, because when you and I were growing up and earlier in our careers, we would put on what I like to call an emotional suit of armor when we left the house. We would go out to work. Work would beat the crap out of us. And then we would come home, take off the emotional suit of armor and go, oh, I can be myself again.
Yeah.
And we're all kind of waking up, modern management is waking up to the fact that we need to bring our whole selves into the world of work. It's really, really difficult and unproductive to separate the two. Of course, you need to have the critical thinking skills and the emotional intelligence skills to know when too much vulnerability is too much, right? So we need to teach all of that. But I really, really love the fact that you're shining a much brighter light on the mental health needs of the community. And as you said, it touches everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
And it's also, there's different levels, right? I mean, we really aren't going to try to take donations to hire another psychiatrist at the clinic or bring in a therapist. This is really about community resources that provide the outlet that oftentimes is really all that's needed. We're trying to keep people from needing to go to a psychiatrist or to take medicine. There's nothing wrong with any of that. Those are all good practices if needed. But let's try and take care of what we can take care of as a community first.
Yeah, preventative medicine is so important. We're going to take a really short commercial break, and we'll be right back with Mary Kay Wolf. Hey, it's Andy here. I've got a new podcast I'd like to introduce you to, The Saturday Morning Muse. Start your weekend with me by exploring topics that span leadership, business management, education, and other musings that are designed to support your journey of personal and professional continuous improvement. Subscribe today on your favorite podcast platform. And we're back talking with Mary Kay Wolf about the United Way. Now, Mary Kay, it wouldn't be the Balancing Act podcast without discussing a balancing act. So what's the most important balancing act that you play as you and Great Rivers United Way interface with the rest of the community?
That's a great question. And I think the best way that I can think of right now is to say that we have to listen to as many voices as possible. There's just not one solution to all the things the needs that are out in the community. There's not one solution. And so if we as an organization can balance all the voices that are talking and try to recognize that there might be some other and unique way to handle something where someone has tried this way for the last 50 years and maybe it's not working, and could we try something else? So that's really I think it's our balancing act is to make sure we're hearing enough voices to make intelligent decisions about solutions.
Yeah. You know, something that I'm really proud of, having been in the chair of campaign co-chair and seeing kind of some of the behind the scenes, is how open and willing you and the organization are to embrace change. And to say, okay, all the things that we did in the past, many of them are great things, but the need in the community is changing. And so therefore we need to change with it, instead of trying to just continue to beat your head against a wall of older models.
Right.
So
congratulations. That was a big thing. In our 75th year this year, it was important that we take a look back and say, well, what are we doing? What's changing? How can we react to it? And this was one of the ways to do it, is we have to change what we do to change what we affect.
It's so hard for, you've got this legacy of 75 years and, longevity and change and acceptance to change. You usually don't go together. So I think it's...
I actually would beg to differ on that.
Would? Okay.
I would. There are some places that don't change, and they won't change, and they become stagnant, and then they go away. And so for us, in order for us to stay relevant, to make sure that we're talking to a generation that comes after us, right? They think differently. They look at things differently. If we're not different, they won't hear us. Yeah. So that's kind of the other option.
So you get to be 75 by being agile and
I believe that. Change. I could be really wrong, and I'm not teaching a business course, so if I'm wrong, it's all okay. But I believe that you have to change.
There's a lot of truth to that. All right. So I like thought experiments. Right in front of you is a corporate decision maker, and you're explaining the benefits of working with Great Rivers United Way. What are the top 2 benefits that their business, this decision maker, will see by engaging with you? Because it's all a two-way street. There has to be something in it for the business as well. What are the benefits they're getting out of a relationship?
Well, one of the things that we bring to the table is every company that I know is trying to offer opportunities for their employees to engage, right? Whether it's currently with them at work or whether it's in the community. It's a lot of companies have that as a mission. And we're your connection to that. I mean, if you want to volunteer and do something specific, we've got options, and we can do all the legwork on that as well. If you want to connect to a nonprofit and rake their grass, sure, you could call that nonprofit. But if you call us, we've got 6 other options that you might want to choose from. Mm-hmm. So we do have a program called Impacts that actually connects businesses with engagement opportunities around the communities. The other thing is, when you're wanting your employees to be well, mentally well, you have to offer those kinds of options of not just volunteering, but how do you make a difference? And most people want to make a difference. They just need to be asked. And so with payroll deduction and with giving back to Great Rivers United Way, it's so easy to give your employee that opportunity to give back.
Mm-hmm.
If you run a United Way campaign, it's just really, it's easy. It means something to them. It's their decision. And you are the winner as the leader of that organization because you're giving them that chance to connect.
Yeah. You can listen to employees grouse and gripe all day, and if that's the filter that you're listening through, you're really not getting the full story, because your people, and I'm talking to you, decision maker and leader, your people do want to add value. Your people do want to do good work at the end of the day, irrespective of how grumpy they get about Susie in accounting down the hall, or this challenge or that challenge. So, and I can attest, as being the former CEO of Kaplan Professional here in La Crosse, I'm one of those leaders that Mary Kay was just hypothetically talking to. I can attest to the engagement benefits, the value add benefits. If you don't have VTO as a benefit in your organization, you should consider it, because just a couple of hours a month of volunteer time off, or VTO, is a huge boost to engagement. And then I saw directly teams working together for common aims to help build the community up. And some of them will say, well, we don't have time for this. We got to get the work done. And yes, that's true. But boy, I've seen these teams come together, people feeling great about being part of Kaplan and Kaplan Professional while I was there.
Productivity goes up.
It does.
I mean, if a couple hours a month of volunteering, you get more productivity. That's a win you can't really ignore.
Yeah. So, other hypothetical, you have an employee of one of those companies sitting right in front of you right now. And, they've gotten the brochure before that says give $2 a month to Great Rivers United Way, $104 a year. And they've filed it in the circular file on the floor, or hopefully recycled it. What do you say to them to help change their mind about saying yes and engaging and being part of giving to Great Rivers United Way?
Well, I can understand hesitation if you don't understand the organization, what we do, or what else is out in the community. I do understand the hesitation. I would say somebody who is questioning whether they have the $2 a paycheck to do that, volunteer first. I mean, find a way to volunteer out in the community, get aligned to an organization that you find shares your values. Chances are we fund them as well, but that's not a guarantee. But that would be my guarantee first, is that you volunteer, you will get engaged, and you will want to support financially. Now, you were specific about them financially supporting Great Rivers United Way. I would say that we are kind of a clearinghouse that makes things easy for you. A lot of people, when they move to a new area, they just don't know what's there. Mm-hmm. Or somebody who's never given anything doesn't really know. And that's part of the reason they don't give, is I don't know who to give it to.
Yeah.
We are doing the legwork for you. We are vetting organizations for you. We are checking up to make sure they're spending the money we're giving them, which is your money. They're spending it the way they said they would. You just don't have the time to follow up on your donation, but we do. That's what we do. And your investment in a gift to Great Rivers United Way goes so far and is stewarded so well. That would be the best investment you could make.
Yeah. One of the muscles that we all have to build is the muscle of giving back and philanthropy. And there's really no better and no easier way to start building that muscle, if you haven't exercised it before, than starting with the United Way, because it is through payroll deduction. It is so straightforward, so easy. If you don't have payroll deduction, you guys still make it easy.
We do. If you don't work at a company who runs a workplace campaign, you can give to us anyway. I think that's been a mistake that people think for the last couple decades. It's like, oh, my company doesn't run one, I can't give. That's just not true.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for that. So we're gonna wrap things up. I have 2 lightning round questions that I ask all my guests. Number 1 is I put you in a little time machine and you can send a really short message to an earlier version of yourself. What's the message and what earlier version of yourself do you send it to?
I only get one message.
Only one.
Oh gosh. So the one message I think.
Because it takes 1.21 gigawatts.
That's too much energy to give more questions. I think it would relate back to the story I told you of when I was in high school and I was directed to go into physical education because I was an athlete, right? Yeah. I would go back and say, ignore those adult advice, trust your gut.
Yeah. Awesome. That's a great message. And we're all works in progress. We're all on our own continuous improvement journeys. Sure. What are you working on right now to build up Mary Kay Wolf?
Ooh, interesting that you ask it that way. This is not going to sound like an answer to that question. But right now I love the Rising Star Awards. I wish there was like a Fading Star Award because I'm on that downhill of, not downhill, but what more can I do in the years I have before I do choose retirement? Yeah. And one of them is to start to, I have always built up people. I've always been the leader that says, you can do this. Empowerment. I think I want to just take that to the nth degree and really start to let people shine through, like empower them to the point where I always delegate, but I feel like I'm ready to take it to a new level of delegation. That's
awesome. And don't think about fading stars. Think about going out as a supernova.
Supernova. There you go.
That's my plan for the rest of my life. I want to go wee and then.
That is a much better analogy.
Well, hopefully at 96.
That's a good number.
96. I used to say 88, but that seems too young. It's too young these days.
I agree.
All right, Mary Kay, it has been an absolute delight talking to you today. What's the last thing that you want to say to our audience?
I just want everyone to find their way to give back. Just find your way. There is a way for everyone, and yours will be something. Find it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really, really appreciate you being here today. This is the Balancing Act Podcast. My name is Andy Temte. You can find us on all the major streaming services as well as out on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share this public good with your friends, your neighbors, and your colleagues, and get involved with your United Way. The show is produced by Nicholas Temte. We'll see you next time on The Balancing Act.